Good morning, everyone, and thank you guys so much for joining today's stream. The market isn't really doing too much right now. We're just seeing a lot of consolidation, especially within like some of the bigger stocks. The S&P 500 literally is not doing anything this morning. It is basically right where it closed yesterday. Some big companies like Apple are just doing the same thing. They're not really moving. I know a lot of tech stocks did struggle yesterday, so that's something to keep in mind. But overall, we can see Tom has the pre-market screener pulled up, Tom, with some of the biggest movers.
Yeah, this is actually from Market Watch here. It shows that Beyond Meat and Pfizer are having some pretty good pre-markets. Let's go see Beyond. It's been a long time since we talked about them, and actually they were popping up in after hours quite a bit yesterday.
Yeah, so there's actually some good news with Beyond. Basically, KFC is going to launch their plant-based fried chicken. And they're going to do that nationwide. They were experimenting with like the plant-based fried chicken with like a couple locations, KFC was, but apparently it was a pretty big hit, and they're launching it everywhere across the U.S.
Yeah, that's actually pretty interesting. We've seen all the plant-based burgers and everything like that, but to see it come to KFC, that sounds pretty interesting. I might have to, go try some KFC. I haven't eaten there in a few years, but man, hopefully it's pretty good. And obviously it's helping their stock here. Looks like Beyond's doing pretty good today. Since market open, it's kind of all over the place, but man, if we could get a nice pop up above like $68 again, I think we could start to see another run with Beyond. And looking at Beyond on the daily, they have a long way to recover back to the upside.
No doubt. One stock that has really been surprising me lately is Boeing, Tom. Boeing is running so much. It's up another 2% today. And we know how this one has just been struggling so much over the past year, but it just keeps going.
Yes, it does. And it finally broke this awesome trend line. We're back up above that 210 resistance. And ever since we passed up above 210 this week, Boeing has just started to fly to the upside. You're right. This is looking pretty hot, and I'm definitely going to keep Boeing on the radar. It's been one of my favorites this week, along with the other airlines. Like, if I know they're not an airline, but whenever we look at like Delta, American, and all of those, they're also doing pretty good this morning. And I'm just glad to see this sector up and doing so well, considering all the bad news with the variant and everything.
Yeah, so just like you said, airlines are doing pretty well. Cruise lines aren't doing too bad either. RCL's making a nice move up, so that's good. But I really like this movement out of Boeing. It's been a while before we saw it really pop up. And, I know for a second there we dropped below 200, which was kind of hard to see. But we're right back up, and I definitely like the momentum with it, especially over the past week. It's not just a slow uptrend, but there's actually some good movement that gives us opportunity, to trade options if we wanted to.
Yeah, there is. And we pretty much went straight from $200 almost straight all the way up to 218 where we were earlier in pre-market. So that's a pretty big jump just for this week alone. And honestly, we still have a few days left, so who knows how high we're going to get.
There we go. All right, and then we have George saying AT&T and Verizon on the recovery. Ex-dividend in 2 days. So I was looking at AT&T the other day, and I was just like, wow. This thing went from $22, and now it's at almost $26.50, and that is huge. That's huge for a company like AT&T. Normally this stock just doesn't really move at all, but like George said, we have that ex-dividend coming up, and the stock's just exploding to the upside.
Yeah, it is. Sometimes AT&T goes on these crazy runs, and then sometimes they just start to sell off for months and months at a time. But I'm really glad to see it recovering like this, Mike. And, this is almost like a best case scenario. Hopefully it gets up there even sooner. I know, we needed to go up pretty fast, and AT&T is, I think it's a good longer term play, Mike. But, for the shorter term, it's kind of all over the place. I would definitely consider shares for the long term, but man, I just don't know about options on this one. They're kind of all over, but if they are going on a nice run, it could be a pretty good momentum play.
You can always sell a put right before the earnings date, and then it's one, you get paid for the put that you sell, but two, if you have to buy shares, then you're also going to get the dividend, and then you can turn around and sell covered calls. It's like a triple-edged sword, you can say.
Oh, you mean sell right before the dividend date?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that'd be awesome. Actually, that would be a really good way to go. Looking at that, I thought you said earnings date the first time. That's where I was a little little lost. But yeah, looking at it, it's looking pretty good here. And that dividend's going to be nice. I know that AT&T, didn't they cut their dividend a while ago?
So they announced news of cutting their dividend, and I believe it's set to go into effect in like soon. Because I remember we were talking about it, and we actually covered it on the stream. And I know that they announced that they're going to cut their dividend. I just don't think it actually went into place just yet.
Yeah, and apparently they're having a special $5 to $8 special dividend coming in 2022 at some point as well. So that's going to be interesting for them. I know that should be pretty interesting. But looking at AT&T in general, like Mike, like as far as like longer term plays go, I know you recommended selling a put. Like, do you think that that's like do you like AT&T shares, for example, better than a different company like Verizon or maybe T-Mobile?
Honestly, I have not done enough fundamental analysis to answer that question accurately. I kind of just follow them all, but I don't have like one favorite picked out just yet.
Yeah, gotcha. It looks like they're kind of going up in sympathy with each other. I was just wondering because, obviously, I'm sure some people are looking at these ones for the longer term, given all the, 5G news and everything possible, like with 5G and then even probably 6G in the future coming out.
Yeah, I remember everyone was hyping up like 5G so much, and I know Verizon, T-Mobile, and AT&T were one of the stocks that were set to gain the most from it. And honestly, I guess you could say like the whole 5G thing has been kind of a letdown, at least so far. I know there's other factors that make these, I guess you can say, cellular companies rise or fall, but I don't know. I just thought that was kind of interesting. Like everyone was hyping 5G up so much, and at least as of right now, they're like the 5G companies aren't looking the best.
Yeah, they're not. And apparently, the news has been coming out over the past few days about 5G starting to roll out. Apparently, it says Verizon, AT&T rise as new 5G airwaves rollout is imminent. And I saw something where the U.S. look at this. It says U.S. transportation officials have been pressing the companies to hold off deploying their 5G airways, and they wanted to, for some reason, delay this. And apparently AT&T and Verizon told the government no, that they're not going to do it again. So I don't know. It seems like it's helping AT&T and Verizon, and maybe 5G is just now finally rolling out in the huge way people were expecting.
True. All right, so then we have Mike saying, good morning. Why are all bank stocks popping? So basically what happens is when rates rise, which we saw yesterday, and I even saw an article today on CNBC that said mortgage rates are higher right now than they've been in like the past 9 months. So rates are rising, at least as of like the short-term outlook, right? Over the past couple months, rates are rising. We'll say that. When rates rise, that hurts the current day valuation of growth companies, like you can say Zoom, DraftKings, Palantir, anything with growth, right? And it helps companies that are already established, like I guess you can say maybe Apple, maybe Walmart, Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola, things like that. So when we see rates rise, it hurts some companies and it helps other companies. It definitely hurts the growth stocks as we've been seeing, but it helps the value stocks and bank stocks because banks benefit when rates rise. And a lot of times we just see more money flowing into bank stocks and just stocks that are set to do well in an environment where rates are higher than they are now. So we're just seeing a lot of capital just like kind of flow into these bank stocks right now, mainly due to the fear of rising rates or, the early warning signs, you can say.
Yeah, it's kind of getting priced in right now. And looking at Bank of America on the daily, it's honestly looking pretty good. Like it's getting pretty explosive. And I know this might not be the all-time high. Let's check the max weekly. Yeah, it's not the all-time high, but if we're able to break out above like this $49 resistance level, I think that Bank of America could have a pretty good break of like highs of the past few years right here. I think it's a pretty good setup, Mike. And once we do break that and start to run, it'll be pretty explosive, I think. And honestly, this week has been already very explosive for banks. Like you said, those rates getting priced in seem like it's really pushing these banks up.
For sure. All right, and then we have Sean saying MU. Let's take a look. Yeah, MU is looking really, really good actually, and it's holding up a lot better than I don't want to say any other chip stock, but a lot of the major ones like AMD has been falling, Nvidia has been falling. Even, well, Qualcomm has kind of been holding its ground, but MU's definitely been looking pretty good.
Yeah, for some reason, Qualcomm and MU were lagging behind all those other chip stocks for a while, and then out of nowhere, they just started exploding up. I don't know if people are getting out of AMD and getting into MU instead, or what's going on, but I know that MU has also had some pretty good news over the past few months as well. It's awesome to see him pushing to new highs like this, and honestly, I hope they just keep going, Mike. It looks like a pretty good momentum play right now, and I feel like for the next few days, it might be pretty good. I am glad, though, to see them going up while stocks like AMD are in the red, like you pointed out, because that shows that MU is kind of persevering through this chip pullback, you could say.
Awesome. All right. So thank you guys so much for joining. Welcome George, Matt, Kevin, Vicky, Mike, Sean, and Jesse. We really appreciate all of you guys joining the stream. Let us know what stocks you're watching, and we will definitely take a look at them. But Tom, so far, looking at just like the overall flow of the market, we got to check out BABA. It's looking pretty good.
Yeah, BABA is looking pretty good, actually. It's been running up almost all morning. And man, if we can finally get up through that 124 resistance, it might finally be a pretty good play. These China stocks are all over the place. Like they gapped down this morning again after that awesome close. And I'm glad they held support and went up, but I couldn't believe they gapped down again this morning.
Yeah, they are tough to trade, but it's good to see this type of movement, you know? So BABA's looking good. I'm sure that'll benefit Queb, which is actually in the red, surprisingly. So this means that there are some other China stocks that are dragging it down. Let's see, PDD's doing fine. JD, yeah, JD's struggling a little bit. Baidu is okay. So BABA's leading the way, but we know how these China stocks are. Like, when there's like big movement to either direction, they normally all like end up following that. So yeah,
We can't forget that Charlie Munger news.
Yeah, true. And then Charlie Munger had news where he like doubled down on his BABA holdings in his like Daily Journal Corporation fund or whatever. The Daily Journal Corporation. That's the the institution that he doubled down in. It wasn't like Berkshire or anything like that. At least that's not what the news said, but. I want to say September 30th of 2021, Munger held like 300,000 shares of BABA, and now he holds like 600,000. And I did a quick calculation before the stream, and I think that only comes out to like, what did I say, Tom? Was it like 70 something million? Let me double check. So 600,000.
It's weird to say only 70 million, right?
Yeah, only 70 million, but I know it sounds like a ton to us, but you know, for those funds, it's like basically nothing. So 600,000 times 124, so yeah, it's only around like 74 million or something, which is really not that much for a fund.
Yeah, it's really not. And I'll be honest, looking at BABA on the daily chart, I think it looks really, really good down here around this 120 support. I will say though, BABA has been posting some pretty good supports and then breaking it over the past few months. But I will say there's a pretty good bottom forming down here. And the way it's starting to break out right here, I think the setup's starting to look pretty good on a technical level too, not just even, buying the dip. I think it's actually starting to set up pretty well.
There we go. And Tom, I saw you watching Intel earlier. I saw that's exploding.
Yeah, this is exploding. They ended up getting some pretty good upgrades this morning, believe it or not. For some reason, Intel has been on fire for the past couple of weeks. I know that sometimes whenever AMD starts to go down, Intel generally starts to go back up. So that's probably what's going on, because we've been seeing AMD start to really fall off to the downside. And even this morning, AMD is about to get back below that 140 support again. So that's not going to be good. But, looking at Intel, it's starting to really go up, and it's kind of like MU, like all the other chip stocks are down, but this one's continuing to run. And like I said, they got an upgrade from Northland Capital this morning. They upgraded them to outperform and set them at a $62 price target. So the price target's all right, but in the end, it's just good to see them moving up as AMD goes down. I know that they are a little bit inverse of each other, so hopefully Intel starts to go. I know that they've been, doing some research and stuff to kind of get their name back on the table, and they have a long way to go. I know lots of people were talking about them in the Discord this morning, and Intel has been getting beaten down the past few years. They've been getting killed by the competition like AMD Nvidia, and companies like that. And they're trying to innovate and get themselves back up there with those other ones.
Good stuff. And then Kathy said, do you think Intel has more to move? It is close to filling the gap from November.
Personally, I think it has more to move, but keep in mind, I'm in shares for the longer term. I'm averaged in somewhere around like $50 or $51, somewhere I believe like that. So I'm just going to be holding my shares for the longer term. In the shorter term, I could see it possibly hitting this resistance, like she's saying, around 55 or even 56, and then possibly starting to consolidate. We can see the last times it hit these levels, the stock sat here for a few months. So definitely be prepared for a little bit of a slowdown over the next few days. Like I said, I don't see it exploding up to 60 or anything like that just based off of this news. I think we need a little bit more of some better catalyst to come out before, we're playing some huge explosions or anything like that.
Gotcha. All right. And then we have Jerry saying, can I get some technical analysis on Netflix? Thinking of jumping in.
Yeah, I think it looks pretty good today. It was kind of recovering up early. It's kind of recovering back up right now. At market open for the first couple minutes, it dropped back down, but looks like it's coming back. I'll say if it can break up above this 595 resistance, I think we could see a pretty good move out of Netflix. There's going to be another resistance at $600 right after that. That's how I would play it personally. I would just wait for that break up above 595. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. It's kind of been up and down today.
Gotcha. All right, and then we have Johnny Leverage saying, do you think AFRM is a good buy at this price point for shares, or shall I wait? I think it's at a good price point, but growth stocks have been struggling a lot, so that doesn't mean that this is the bottom. I feel like it's at a really good price point, and because no one knows the bottom, your best bet might just be averaging in. So let's just say for simple math, let's say you wanted to put $1,000 into this company for shares. You might put in like $200 today, and then $200 next week, and then $200 the week after that until you get to 1,000. That way you'll just have like a nice average in 5 weeks from now.
Yeah, that would actually be a really smart way to do it. And looking at AFRM, I like it right now too. I think it's at a pretty good price point. There's a huge support at $80 even, and if that ends up holding up, you might be pretty upset that you missed the boat. So I think starting to average in here would be a good idea. Like Mike said, 200 a week is not a bad strategy.
Yep, you know it. All right, Tom, so checking back in on the market overall, we have the SPY basically doing nothing. It's not really moving at all. And at the same time, we have some companies that are exploding to the upside. I guess you can say Boeing. It's not exploding, but it's having a pretty good day so far. Walmart's looking pretty good. Disney's having a day. Even Zoom's doing good, right? So those stocks are popping up. We have your Intel popping up, which is great. But on the reverse side, some big companies like Microsoft are taking a really big hit.
Yeah, that's insane to see Microsoft and Apple continuing to go down. Like I was just not expecting to see them to continue this sell-off, but it looks like it's going to be like a double continuation here. You can see we had that huge move down yesterday morning below that 182 support. Once we broke that, it was just straight down almost all morning. And today, unfortunately, we broke 179 to the downside. And it's not looking good. I don't know what's going on with these stocks, Mike, but I will say we have been talking about them for a long time, and we've been kind of waiting for a transition to happen. And eventually, these stocks should pull back, and money should start flowing into other parts of the market. So honestly, I know it sucks to see these stocks down, but it might be good for some of the growth plays like we were talking about.
I'm with you, Tom. Seriously, because, Microsoft and Apple have been exploding up for basically the past 2 years, but they've really been exploding up over the past couple of months, and it has not helped the growth stocks at all. So, maybe with this selling pressure that we're seeing in these big companies like Microsoft and Apple, maybe we'll see some of that capital flow into some of these stocks that are so low, like BABA, like Boeing, like Disney, like Zoom, Corsair, AI, Chewy. There's so many, but so far it's looking pretty good.
You forgot about DraftKings.
Tom, you know that DraftKings is included by default.
Yeah, I know. That's hilarious though. Man, I can't believe Baba's up 5% now, Mike. We're all the way up to that 126 resistance. We actually broke that key 124 level from a couple days ago.
Yeah, it's really running. Like I remember when we first mentioned Baba today, it was up 3%, and then I just like keep checking it on like the left side of my screen, and then it's up 4%, and now it's up 5%. It reminds me of Ford yesterday. Like we started talking about it when it was up 6%, and then I checked back at the end of the day, and it was up like 12 or 13%. I was like, what happened?
Yeah, Ford was insane yesterday. Hopefully Baba ends up going up 14%. That would be awesome. But man, yeah, Ford had that awesome news with their electric pickup trucks. I can't believe how much good news like Ford and General Motors has had regarding their electric vehicles. We're seeing stocks like Tesla, Lucid, and stocks like that pulling back while these stocks are starting to fly up like Ford and General Motors. So it's kind of crazy to see those you should say I will say those more established like older car companies kind of really innovating here and getting some insane growth. Like to be honest, like Ford's growth at this point is starting to like get to the point of like it's like Lucid Motors or something.
True. Yeah, crazy stuff. So, checking back in with the market overall, we have Intel still flying. It looks like Boeing is right about to break its high of day. So let's check in on this really quickly. Yep, it looks like it just broke.
Yeah, Boeing's looking hot. Like you said earlier, it hasn't really flown up too much. It's only up like 2.3%, but it is looking pretty good. If we could get up above 220, I think that would be awesome for Boeing. And it looks like we'll at least get there or test that level. So looking at Boeing going forward though, Mike, like it's getting pretty explosive. I'm going to look at it on the 180-day, 1 hour chart to try to see like what kind of major resistance levels we have coming up. I'm definitely seeing one at 220, which is coming up pretty soon. But after 220, I could see a pretty good pop up to 225 or 230.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's running, and I remember last year, or maybe it was 2 years ago. Yeah, I guess you could say 2 years ago, because actually, I mean, there's been a couple times throughout Boeing's history where it just explodes for like a week straight, and it looks like we're kind of in that phase right now. Like specifically, I know there was a huge pop back up in like March and April of 2020, but I was specifically looking at March of 2021. Actually, we can see in March of 2021, Boeing was trading at like $224, and then over the course of like maybe like 4 or 5 days, it went all the way up to 278, which is just it's crazy, and that's just how Boeing is sometimes. Like it'll just be like it'll just do nothing for months, and then it'll have like 1 week where it just goes crazy.
Yeah, we could kind of see that even back like in 2020, even like back in like August, September. It was just really consolidating and doing nothing until it finally broke out. And I definitely see that maybe starting to happen now. I can't wait for the breakout with Boeing, Mike. Like it's been a long time. Like we said, it's almost been a whole year since Boeing started to finally get a nice pop. And I hope that this one is finally going to break some of these big resistances. Like honestly, this 240 resistance up here has been a menace over the past year.
Exactly. And then another stock that's just kind of, I don't want to say lingering around, but it's Zoom. So Zoom has been doing horrible over like the past year, and it's definitely holding its ground now. Like it's making back like all of the losses it had since yesterday, and I feel like people are going to really start jumping in this one once they realize that it's trading at a great price.
Yeah, it is. And it actually triple bottomed at this like 174. You could see it hit 172, but pretty much triple bottomed here right around that like 174 support. Looks pretty good on a technical level. And if this is the bottom, I mean, obviously it's going to be a pretty nice thing to try to catch it. So hopefully we start to see Zoom break out back up above 190 and then possibly even back up above 200. Maybe that'll show that this is a true support down here. And I just really hope that this support finally holds up, Mike, because earlier in the week, whenever we saw these stocks going down, Zoom was looking pretty rough the way it fell through that support. And I really hope it holds like it is today. This is a really good day for us, I think. And if Zoom would have fell down today below that, I would have been pretty worried.
Yeah, it's been rough, but I think we'll be good for like the next couple of months. Like I think the worst is behind us with Zoom. Like some of these companies like that I love, like Square for example, I really like it at this price point, but honestly I wouldn't be surprised if Square just fell a little bit lower over like the next couple of months or something like that. But with Zoom, I feel like the worst is behind us, and I think it's set to do pretty well.
Yeah, I do too. And honestly, like Zoom's earnings have been crazy. Like I cannot believe that their EPS is in the positive by so much. And even if we go look at a stock like Square, like I know that they're totally different companies and they have different shares outstanding and stuff, but Square's EPS is 0.37. We have, obviously Zoom's is a little higher at 1.11. And I just feel like that their earnings have been especially good for how much the stock's been going down. Like obviously we've seen these growth stocks like DraftKings, you could say, or maybe even like Lucid Motors or stocks like that reporting negative earnings. And it's just nice to see Zoom come in with something positive for once. Like these growth stocks have been in the negatives for a while, it seems like.
Exactly. Another one I've been watching is Logitech, Logi. It's one of Corsair's competitors. I like Corsair and Logitech. Logitech is in a little bit better of a financial position, but I've been eyeing them up for a dip buy.
Yeah, I have too. I actually own 100 shares of Corsair. I started averaging into a little while ago. I've really been eyeing up Logitech, though. I know that me and you talked about this a few days ago, and man, Logitech is looking pretty hot down here. This support at $80 is holding up very well, and like you said, Logitech is a little bit better fundamentally. And then in the end, Logitech, it just seems like that they have a little bit more of the market share. Like Logitech mice, Logitech keyboards, they're just so established, like in the gaming industry and everything. Honestly, like if you like gaming, I think picking up both of them is a really smart way to go.
There we go. All right, so we have B saying, good morning. What is your thought on path for the long term? So PATH. So I'm going to be honest with you, this is the first time I'm looking at this company. I just looked it up and it says that it is a global software company for robotic process automation founded in Romania, and it's headquartered in New York City. So it looks like they have a lot to do with like robotics and automation and software and things like that. It sounds really cool. It's just I really don't really know too much about them. So it sounds like they can definitely change the world, but I'm not sure what like type of fundamental position that they are in. But it looks like they're trading at like a decent price, but I'll definitely do more research.
Yeah, me too. It seems like a pretty good price to buy at, but at the same time, I don't know anything about this company. I will say though, Mike, the setup is not my favorite since IPO. So I don't know. I'm not going to give too much of a major opinion on this. Obviously, we've seen stocks go down a lot from IPO. Even like Robinhood is another one. So just looking at it, I just feel like that I just don't know enough about the company to give a good opinion on it. I will say though, on the chart, if $40 holds up, it'll be a pretty good support.
For sure. So I'm just like looking into it a little bit more. It looks like they have 3,000 employees. They're in 25 different countries. Their revenue is like 607 million, which is not bad. And I just want to check their market cap really quickly. So it looks like they're valued at 22 billion, which is a decent amount. I don't know. I'm gonna do some more research on this one. It definitely sounds interesting. But
yeah, it's really interesting. And looking at it, I hope that the support ends up holding up because they've been in a big downtrend, and whenever they do start to go back, they'll probably start to recover pretty quickly. Even if they don't have the best fundamentals or anything, they can always still move pretty decently off supports and stuff. So it still could end up being a pretty good play in the longer term.
Exactly. All right, and then we have Vicky saying, hit the like, guys. So yeah, if you guys like the stream, it would mean so much to us if you could smash that like button. It takes like 2 seconds, and we would greatly appreciate it. So we also have Vicky asking for levels on Airbnb. So Tom, Airbnb, what are you seeing?
Yeah, it's actually flying up today. It got pretty close to this like 175 resistance and ended up coming right back down. I'm seeing some resistance around 175 to 176 intraday. We can tell yesterday it obviously hit really close to 176 and fell. Today we're having problems getting up above 175. As far as like the daily chart goes, I will say I kind of like Airbnb setup, Mike. Like they've been recovering up pretty well ever since they had this big dip over the past like few weeks. And if they start to break out up above that 176 resistance, I could see them starting to really run possibly up to 180 or even higher. So I think that's going to be the main way to look at Airbnb today is waiting for that break of resistance. And I'm seeing a pretty good intraday support around, I would say the major one's going to be around 170 even. There's a little bit of a one right around 172, but I think 170 is going to be larger.
Good stuff. And then we have Rahul saying, also what happened with CRM? CRM. So, wow, it's not looking good today. I did not see the news with it, but it looks like UBS downgraded CRM to neutral, and they lowered the price target all the way to $265, which isn't bad, but apparently this is a cut from 315. So 315 down to 265 is pretty significant, but besides that, it just looks like it's that downgrade that's driving it lower.
Yeah, it really is. And I will say though, CRM has been on fire for the past like 5 or 6 years. Like, man, they have been flying to the upside. I know that it's been one of my favorite stocks in the market. Like last year, it was one of the most hyped up stocks, and it just continued to do well. I know that Salesforce is really big in the market, and looking at them, if one of these major supports like 230 or 220 holds up, I think it'll be pretty good, Mike. And as this one starts to fall, it might be a pretty good candidate for shorting some puts or just even dip buying shares. Like, I think this is a pretty solid company, at least for the longer term. Of course, anything can happen over the next month or two, but I feel like for the next few years, it'll be fine.
No doubt. All right, we have Hunter saying Rivian below $100 again. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate to see, but honestly, I'm not too surprised by this. I was kind of hating on Rivian when they first IPO'd. So I honestly think that we might see some like Robinhood or Coinbase action with this one, Tom. Like the Rivian truck's awesome. Like it's really cool. It's awesome, but I just felt like, especially when they IPO'd, their valuation was just ridiculous, and I can see it actually going lower, just slowly though.
Yeah, I think it'll start to go a little bit lower as well. Eventually, though, I think that they're going to just explode, to be honest. Like, eventually. Now, not right now, because they're having issues with production, and they couldn't even produce, like, they came, like, 400 cars short of their, 1,200 production goal last year. Like, you couldn't even get 1,200 cars out. Like, what are you going to do whenever you get these orders for 300,000 vehicles and stuff? So, I don't know, but Rivian's looking, like you said, not good today, and I feel like it could definitely go lower for the next couple of months, but I'm definitely going to be waiting some good news from them because, just like anything, they're going to go down with these bad earnings and with the bad news. And honestly, I'm just kind of waiting for them to, maybe form a solid support down here at the bottom. And we haven't even had too much chart movement to look at. Like there's just not enough data, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree. So just want to say it again, like their trucks are awesome, but I just feel like they're still slightly overvalued, but we shall see. And then we have Mike saying thoughts on MARA and or Riot. So honestly, I don't really play these ones too much. Like when it comes to cryptocurrencies, I just buy cryptos directly. So if we're like trying to follow the price of Bitcoin, like at this point, we now have a Bitcoin ETF, you know what I mean? And that's BITO. And I know that it's not good for a longer term hold, but it will follow like the price of Bitcoin short term. So it's like, I'm now to the point where if I want to trade crypto short term, I will use BITO. And if I want to do anything long term, I'll just buy the currency directly. So I'm not really big into Mara and Riot, but that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I think that Mara and Riot can be decent. Like sometimes we see Mara and Riot like really fly up. I'm actually going to get a price or a chart up of Bitcoin really fast just to see like how it's kind of moving today, because sometimes it's just a crazy movement, but we can see that like so far today Bitcoin is starting to fly up, from 46,200 all the way up to 46,800. It looks like a pretty good intraday move. And then we go look at Mara and it's in the red. So I definitely see what you're saying, Mike. I feel like these stocks can start to run. I've seen people post some pretty insane gains, but to be honest, they're just so volatile, and I see most people end up losing on them, to be honest.
Yeah, like at least BITO is in the green today. So
yeah, it's actually following it in a way, which is good.
Yeah. All right. And then we have B saying, can we expect Palantir to go up technically? In my opinion, yes. It's had a huge support right around 18. There's another huge support right around 17. But besides that, it has been holding its ground over like the past couple of weeks. I know for over the past couple of months it's been brutal for Palantir and other growth companies, but I think it looks good now. Is it in an A plus setup to go to the upside? No, but I feel like it does look good, and it is at a lower support, which is what you want to see if you're looking to buy the dip.
Yeah, definitely. They're right on that $18 support. And, lots of other stocks have been right around these supports as well. Like Palantir's at their support. We have Corsair down by support. We have DraftKings down by support, Zoom's by support. And honestly, we're looking for bounces on all these. Like if we start to see these fall off and they start to break these supports, it's not going to be good for the short term. So hopefully we see all these supports hold up. It's pretty crazy how all of them are at support at the same time. So hopefully they go up in sympathy with each other. And honestly, like with the way Zoom's looking today, hopefully we go up and break that 184 resistance. And I think with the momentum, it could definitely continue up today.
I agree. It's looking pretty good, and it's just like kind of like you said, Tom, like they're all moving together. So we have Zoom running up a little bit, Corsair, but like even Peloton and Teladoc are looking decent. Peloton's looking a lot better than Teladoc, but it is what it is, so we'll see. But the nice thing is that when the turnaround does happen, it's going to be awesome, because you'd think that all these growth companies will, kind of explode at the same time.
Yeah, that'll be the best case scenario. And maybe we'll even see China and some of those stocks start to explode too. Like a lot of stocks have been getting beaten down at the same time. And like we talked about, Mike, it might take some of these bigger stocks like Apple and Microsoft starting to fall down to finally get these bigger buyers in there and to finally start this good transition that we're waiting for.
Yep. All right, so speaking of the China stocks, it looks like BABA is still going. It's up 5.5% today. It literally just broke its high of day. It looks like it's pulling back very slightly right now, but besides that, there's a ton of volume coming in and it's running.
Yeah, these candles on the 1 minute are getting pretty crazy here. We just broke out above 126. Hopefully we start to see a bit of a run. Like you said, it's kind of faking out a little bit right now. I'm really looking for a nice candle and a nice pop up above 127. That would be a really cool thing to see with BABA today. Like we said, it's been on fire, and there is a bit of support and resistance here right around 126 even. If we stay up above 126 right now, I feel like over the next few minutes, we could get a pretty good pop here. Like I said, possibly up above 127 as long as this area holds up.
Exactly. All right, so we have Matt saying, Riot is good for me to sell out of the money covered calls on. Technically down $2,000 on shares, but have sold approximately $3,500 in covered calls over the past year. Holding 400 shares currently, the last 100 was a sold put. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely nice to take advantage of the overpriced options on these ones, because the IV is pretty high, so that is good. And I feel like if you're gonna play these stocks, doing exactly what Matt's doing is the way to go. Basically, you just sell puts, and then if you get assigned, just sell covered calls or even just hold the shares. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty good strategy, and it normally works pretty well on most stocks. And it's good that the implied volatility is over 100% on this one, because you're getting really good premiums. Like if you look at the share price right now, which is just under 24, if you went out to I don't know, maybe February 18th, you can say a 20 strike put, you'll get $175 on, which isn't bad at all.
Yeah, it's not bad. And to be honest, that's a really good strategy that he used there to get that premium. I think that obviously, like you said, he'd be down $2,000 right now if he didn't do that. So I'm really glad you did. Now I will say, Riot and Mara are pretty hard to hold for the long term, and I don't really recommend everybody, implement that exact strategy. But I will say that was really good by him, and he's in the profit now by $1,500. That's pretty good for getting $3,500 in premium back when you're only losing $2,000. That's actually really good numbers, and almost like best case scenario, you're almost in the play for free at this point.
Yeah, and then another thing is imagine if the stock pops up to, let's say, 30 or 40 or maybe even $50. Then, he'll be up a good amount on the shares, and then he'll probably sell some more covered calls, and it'll be like a awesome profit, because he'd profit from the short puts, the shares, and the covered calls.
Yeah, exactly. It's awesome. Like I said, it's not my favorite stock, but I love the strategy. And hey, those premiums are high on this one, so really nice play.
Yep. All right, so looking back at some of the movement today, we have some stocks doing very well, but some stocks are doing pretty bad too. Like even Enphase, I was looking at this one and it was looking so good like a couple weeks ago, or I guess you could say in the end of November. It was looking awesome and it just looks terrible right now.
Yeah, Enphase was getting pretty overextended for a while. Like once it broke that all-time high, it just exploded like straight up to 282. Man, this thing was on fire. And you're right, it definitely started to pull back in a major way. And even today, unfortunately, like fell below that 175 support. It's just, yeah, not looking good, Mike. But we did finally fill this gap to the downside. So maybe we'll finally start to hit a support and go up eventually. And Enphase should be pretty good. They're a solar company, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, they should be pretty good for the longer term. And there's a huge support at $150 even. Like, actually, 150 is huge. So hopefully 150 ends up holding up for Enphase. Like I said, I like him for the long term, Mike. I'm sure you do too. And it sucks to see him down like this. But, just like we're seeing with all the other growth stocks, hopefully it starts to hit some support and go back up soon.
Exactly. All right, Tom. Well, I'm checking back in on your intel, and it just keeps going. It looks like we're just below that $55.50 resistance.
Oh wow, I'm glad to see it back up here. I saw it pulling back a little bit earlier. Hopefully it starts to break that resistance and go right back up. It's so weird to hit 4 5s right there, 55.55. But yeah, make it break that. I feel like it could be another pretty good intraday move. If it does end up breaking that, man, I can't believe that Intel has been on fire this much today. Like, I'll be honest, like out of my like growth stock portfolio, I was never expecting Intel to be the leader. Like we have DraftKings, Corsair, Zoom, Disney, lots of other stocks, and then Intel's the one leading. It's just, I was just never expecting it. But hey, sometimes the market, gives you some nice surprises.
Yeah, you know it. So yeah, I mean, we covered most of the major movers today. Just a couple, like, I guess we can revisit really quickly are Baba, and yeah, I would say mainly Baba. That's the one that's really popping up everywhere to me. It's up almost 6% now, and there's just so much volume flowing in.
Yeah, there really is. Baba is looking very nice. It actually kind of, hopefully it ends up breaking out. I know it was looking like a little bit of a fake out right there. Looks like it might end up holding that 126 support like we were talking about intraday. Looks like it's actually just about to pop up above that high. I know it wants to. It just needs to, we just need to give it like 10 more seconds and it'll probably get up there. Hopefully we see Baba start to run. I don't know how much higher we're going to get today, Mike, but sometimes Baba has these explosive runs. And like we've seen in the past, like if we look back in October, Mike, of last year, you can see on like October 6th, and then, yeah, on October 6th, we pretty much exploded the very next day. And on the 7th, we pretty much ran from 140 all the way up to like right around $160 a share. So sometimes when Baba gets these pops, it can go on some major runs for the next few weeks even.
You know it. Hunter said he'd like a nice surprise with DraftKings. I'm with you. It's been pretty disappointing. No, actually, DraftKings has been a nice surprise over the past couple of months, but the wrong type of surprise, we'll say that. Like, it was looking so good. It was at like 65 in like September, right around there, and now it's like less than half of that. So that's a bad surprise, but I'm with you overall. Then we have Matt and Sean mentioning Disney, and then Sean said, Disney, can they make back to the high? I would think so. It's just a matter of time. They're a powerhouse company, and they're trading at like a pretty nice level. So I would say yes, it's just a matter of time. And it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, it's looking pretty hot. I will say it's up quite a bit today, up 1.6%. There's that big resistance up there on 160. Maybe we'll go up and retest that or possibly break it today. That would honestly make for some awesome movement if we did do that. I can't wait for Disney to start to go on a major or start to break out in a major way. Like I love the way we've been going up the past few weeks, and I just can't wait till we go back up to that 180 resistance. That's going to be a huge move, and it might take some good news with Disney Plus or something, but they do have earnings actually coming up at the beginning of February, it looks like. So that's going to be a very interesting time whenever all these earnings start coming out again. Like, it feels like earnings season was just around the corner, and now it's we're almost right back to it.
For sure. All right, Tom. Well, do you have any last minute stocks, options, or anything else?
Man, a stock that ended up climbing up my watch list again today was Exxon and Mobil. Like, again, they continue up in the green. They're breaking out up above this $65 resistance. And I was really hoping these oil stocks would hit these resistances and start to fall. But man, it looks like they're going to the upside. We have Exxon up. We have CVX up in the green. CVX is actually starting to break out in a pretty major way. So I don't know. These oil stocks are looking like pretty good plays. They're not huge movers like we're seeing with BABA or with Intel, but I will say they've been doing pretty well. And I can't believe that crude oil is like still going up. Like, man, we have OPEC out here increasing production. We even have the US trying to manipulate the price down, and it just keeps going up. So I don't know, but expect higher gas prices. And, we might keep seeing these stocks like Chevron and Exxon keep running, especially with the way they're breaking out.
Alrighty, well, thank you guys so much for joining today's stream. Some stocks are doing great, some stocks are doing really bad. So thank you guys so much for joining, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.